So Bill Maher just came out, Team P Diddy. Unbelievable. I cannot believe that Bill Maher actually has an opinion on this. This is not in his wheelhouse. He is some left-wing liberal. I've been listening to Bill Maher forever. Like all the way back to Politically Incorrect. Love Bill Maher. I just think he's so out of his wheelhouse on this one. And to make the claims that he's making in his show, this was last Friday, is just unbelievable to me. I just feel like he went on this 10-minute rant about how logically people in abusive situations should just leave. You should just leave. And period. That's it. It doesn't make any sense why you would stay. Anyways, he goes on this 10-minute rant. I'm here to break it down, and how he feels the P Diddy trial is coming along. So, anyways, guys, my name's Delana. Stick with me. I'm going to break down Bill Maher's rant about domestic abuse and how everybody should just leave. It's really that simple. According to Bill Maher, you just leave, period. So let's hear what he has to say about domestic abuse.
And two, things have changed enough so that moving forward, the rule should be if you're being abused, you gotta leave right away. Now, I completely understand why in the past women often did not do that. I understand, as counterintuitive as it seems, why an abused woman would send complimentary texts or emails to her abuser after the abuse. In an era where women felt, for good reason, that OG predators like Bill.
So his first statement there is like, yeah, I understand. He does not understand why people stay. He does not understand why people send the positive text or email afterwards. It is because when you're stuck in this abusive relationship, you try to keep things as positive as possible. I equate it in one of my other shows I did. It's about like it's like living on an island. I equate it to, anyways, but it's just like living on an island, and you're on an island with this abusive person, and sometimes you feel you can't get off that island for whatever reason, be it you're in a marriage or you're in like Cassie and P. Diddy's relationship where it's completely unbalanced. She was probably financially dependent on him. Her career was dependent on, there were so many things that were dependent on him. But other women, you're in a marriage, you have children. You can't leave for financial reasons. You can't leave because you don't want to break up your family or your kids or whatever the reason is, whatever the reason you're stuck on this island. Sometimes you send those texts or those positive statements or messages is because you want to make your life and everybody around you's life easier. You just don't want the shitstorm to come in. And sometimes when the shore would be the safety, sometimes it's too far away to get there. You don't know how to get there. Or if you feel like you jump in the water to try to swim to shore to safety, then you might drown. And then you worry about that. And then there's so many things that are going on in this situation. He has no flippant idea what he's talking about. In this whole entire rant, he's trying to think of this logically and not thinking like this as anybody who's ever been in an abused relationship. That's why I say he's out of his wheelhouse. He needs just to shut the fuck up and stay out of it. Stay out of this. And or someone really needs to have a come to Jesus moment and sit down in a room, I swear, like an hour with someone who's actually been in an abusive relationship and actually know what's really going on, because he has no concept. And you'll see through this rant how he is so off base. And it's unfortunate when, there's some applause in the crowd, but there's not a lot. But unfortunately, there is a lot of people out there that luckily have never been in this situation. So they really, truly don't understand, him being one of them. And this is, I guess, an example how people that are judging the situation, what their really mindset is all about. So let's keep breaking this down.
Bill Cosby and Harvey Weinstein would never be held accountable. Why not at least get something out of it? These men were surrounded by all sorts of enablers, skeptical cops, assistants who lured women into unsafe spaces, cowards who knew what was going on but didn't dare expose the person who signed their paycheck. In that scenario, it was not illogical for an abused woman to say, well, if I can't get justice for my pain, can I at least get a receipt, a coupon? But a lot has changed.
Yeah, so he's talking about women getting payouts for being, victims of abuse, and sorry, if Cosby, Harvey Weinstein, yeah, they should pay their abusers, people that they abused, 100%. There is many cases and, like, punitive damages where, yeah, you get paid out for the damage that you've been inflicted on throughout your abuse. Why not? Why not them? Why not someone who's been sexually abused? Why should they not get a payout? Why should they not have money to make their life easier, to go to counseling, to see a psychiatrist, medications, anything that they need to make their life easier? Maybe they can't work. Who knows what's going on in their life? But someone who's they've been violated, it'd be the same as someone if they physically like, if someone physically if Cosby or Weinstein went in and beat the shit out of that girl physically, and we saw the bruises, and we saw that she was so injured that she couldn't work, she needed rehab, she needed all those things, he would probably understand. He's like, "Oh," he'd probably get that. But what they don't understand is the abuse is internal, and people don't see it. So when people don't see it, they just don't understand it. But to be this naive, to not see that there's damage has been done and that these women should be compensated, however, which means that it should be, like I said, he's got his head completely up his fucking ass. And I like I said, I love Bill Maher, but he is a logical guy, but this is not a logical situation. There's nothing logical about it. None of it makes sense. And that's part of the frustrating part of it, and that's a lot of times why women stay because it's so not logical. Like, there's the cycle and all the shit that you got, none of it is logical, and you try to put logic to it, and it just doesn't work. But sometimes you just have to look at the end result and say, "Yeah, they've been in an abusive relationship, and 100% they should be compensated." No ifs, ands, or buts about it. So, let's keep hearing Bill rant on.
Cosby and R. Kelly went to prison. Harvey
Well, they
Weinstein is
should.
going to die in prison. Larry
Mhm.
Nassar is serving 175 years. Jeffrey Epstein was murdered in his jail cell by Hillary Clinton.
And I think there's nothing funny about it. There's nothing funny about Jeffrey Epstein. That is a whole other situation, but you're talking about young children that had no defense mechanisms built in to defend any kind of a physical abuse, a mental abuser like that. They had no chance whatsoever. Um, to be any kind of defense against Jeffrey Epstein, for him to even bring that up is just to me is just such a low blow. But yeah, they should be in jail. I just watched a special on that NAFTA guy, the guy with the gymnastics. There's a special on, I think it's on HBO as well, and it's called American Monster, and it's like power and how people with power can abuse those that are less than. And he was in gymnastics and how he abused those young girls, and all the young girls were talking. And sometimes it just like I said, it happens so slowly, and he groomed them, and then it was just a little bit here, a little bit more, and a little bit more, and oh no, it's okay, it's because I'm doing it because that's like my method, or there's so many different avenues of abuse, and there none of it makes sense. And yeah, they should all be compensated, and yeah, that guy should go to jail for the rest of his life, 100 million%, hands down. So let's keep going. Not funny.
Post Me Too, reporting of sexual crimes is way up, as is the percent of women who say they're now more likely to speak out if victimized. And many states have changed laws making it easier for victims to come forward. We're not in the no one listens to women or takes them seriously era anymore. Operators are actually standing by to take your calls.
Yeah. So, yeah, we are in an era where people are more likely to talk, 100%, but a lot of women are still afraid to talk or can't talk because they don't want the repercussions of what happens after I talk, and those repercussions can be my whole family falls apart. The breadwinner in my family goes to jail. Now what the fuck do I do? I got all these kids and I got these bills to pay, and the guy that makes the money who's abusing me is now in jail or whatever. What happens to me now? I can't rely on my family. I don't have an extended. There's just so many different reasons why people don't come forward. And like, let's just say a woman is in an abusive situation, her husband goes to jail. Now, she has no source of income because she has to be home with the kid and all these things. Well, who's there then? Where are all these Me Too people to support this person or the mental anguish that she has to go through? Yeah, you call these places and things. Yeah, you might be able to get the guy to go in jail 100%, but there's so many other factors that go in. Like Cassie and P Diddy, her whole entire career was dependent on this guy who was paying her rent, was paying for her car. She was so attached to him that it's so hard to leave. She was so stuck. Again, like I said, when you're stuck on that island, sometimes the shore seems so far away. And yeah, I can call the police and yeah, he can go, but you're just so stuck on this island, you just don't know what to do. So it's just not that easy. And for him to make those statements, "Oh, yeah, just call the 1-800 number and all your problems will be solved." Yeah, that doesn't work that way. It doesn't work that way. Growing up, my dad always we used to gather all our clothes and stuff because we used to give to this, women's shelter, and it was called the Yellow Brick House, and so I remember always gathering all my clothes and bringing them to the shelter, and it's always stuck with me, the women that were there, because it was for women that were in abusive situations, and they could leave their families, and they would have somewhere safe to go. But I always used to think like, "Well, what happens then? Like, what happens after?" Like, so they go there, they get out of the situation, but a lot of those women, they didn't have enough clothes for their kids, so how are they gonna get a house for their kids or how keep a roof over their head? And I just remember thinking when I was a kid, like, "Well, now what do they do now? Now they're here, but what's the next step? Where do they go now?" And I always remember wanting to bring extra clothes and extra stuff for the kids because 'cause I'm like, "Okay, well, that's only, like, 5 pairs of socks, like, what are they gonna like, they're gonna need more. The lady's got, like, 4 kids, like, that's not enough." So what do they do next is the question, and a lot of times, the women, yes, they can get out and they can make that first step to get safe, but a lot of times they're afraid of the 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th step down the road. What do they do then? That's why what he's saying is so asinine, and it's just so out of touch with what's really going on. Like I said, someone needs to sit him down in a room with, like, 10 women in 10 different abusive situations and explain to him what it's really like I said, he should not have unless you walked a mile in my moccasins, you should not have an opinion. Like, really? You should not have an opinion.
And I'm aware that it can be difficult to leave an abusive relationship. Most of what I watch on TV is the Lifetime channel. But
I watch a lot of those, not Lifetime, but I wanna watch a lot of true crime, and a lot of times, when he's not saying in a lot of these stories, a lot of times the woman doesn't survive. A lot of times it ends up in death. It really does. Charlize Theron, her mother, she watched her mother in a very abusive, relationship. Her father abused her mother all through her childhood, and she did a really good job of explaining what it's like it's like the box of chocolates. When you get up in the morning, you never know what chocolate you're gonna get. And that's why I say those positive messages is like, well, if I keep throwing out the positive messages, the probability of me getting really good chocolate is probably a lot better than the box of chocolate of knowing half of them are shit. So what happened with Charlize Theron is that her mother ended up killing her father, because she was so abused. And that's one of the reasons that she doesn't wanna get married today is because, like, she's adopted her children is because she wants to be able to have her kids get up in the morning and know that they're always in a safe place, that every time they get up in the morning, it's not gonna be like, "Well, who's at the door now?" or "Who's coming into my room?" or, "What's my life gonna be like, uh, today? What mood is my dad gonna be in today?" So she always wanted a balanced life for her kids, which I always thought was really commendable. So a lot of times it's not a movie, and to equate it to any of these movies is ridiculous. And like I said, instead of watching Lifetime, try watching like Signs of a Psychopath or things like that, where you see that a lot of times these situations don't end up in really bad. A lot of times the woman dies. And even Cassie, the way that he abused her, he could have hit her the wrong way in the head or hit her some way or shape or form that could have killed her, or diseases, or so many other things that she could have died from that whole situation. Lucky for her that she survived and she has a good life now, but it's not a movie. Bill Maher's got to watch a little bit more true crime and see how disastrous some of these abusive relationships can turn out. They really can.
But this should be society's new grand bargain. We take every accusation seriously, but don't tell me any more about your contemporaneous account that you said to two friends 10 years ago. Tell the police right away. Don't wait a decade. Don't journal about it. Don't turn it into a one-woman show. And most importantly, don't keep fucking him.
And like I said, sometimes you can't leave. And i- if you stop fucking him, then all hell's gonna fucking break loose. That's the thing that you don't understand. You're always trying to keep the status quo and keep it positive, keep it above board, so it's just not that easy. It just really is not that easy, and a lot of times, I hope women are journaling, I hope they're keeping track of everything, but a lot of times, women are just too embarrassed to talk about it. They're too embarrassed to tell their family, they're too embarrassed to even tell their friends, their family members. It's like, well, because they know sometimes their family members can't do anything about it, or if you tell your family member or you tell your friends and then they have a negative connotation towards your spouse, your boyfriend, or whatever, and then the spouse starts to feel like, "Oh, no, they don't like me." So now you're going to become even more isolated, because if they feel the tension that your family or your friends don't like them, they're not going to want you to associate with them anymore. So then your circle goes smaller and smaller. So if you don't say anything, you can keep those relationships going, and there's just so many layers to this. He's just missing so many layers, and this is from a single guy, the ultimate bachelor that's never probably been in a relationship for more than 5 years, I don't think. Anyways, that he just has no clue, and he's just talking completely out of this fucking ass, seriously.
Your only contemporaneous notes about what he did should be the police report. It's not victim shaming to expect women to have the agency to leave toxic relationships. Quite the contrary. To not expect that is infantilizing them. If Diddy walks free, it will be because his lawyers can point to an endless stream of texts from Cassie expressing what's often called enthusiastic consent to their sex life. If you're Me Tooing someone, it doesn't help your case if you texted him, "Me too. I just want it to be uncontrollable." If you want us to think you weren't always ready to freak off, don't write, "I'm always ready to freak off." Or, or wish we could have FO'd before you left. One sign you're pretty comfortable with something is
Yeah. So again, the positive text is to, and who knows when those texts were even sent. Those could have been at the very beginning when things weren't that serious, when he was not abusing her. We don't know. But a lot of times it's like, again, you're trying to keep the status quo, you're trying to keep it positive, you're trying to like, sometimes if you can be positive and be a part of it and say, yeah, we could have, could have FO'd before you left. Well, you know what? Sometimes you feel like, well, maybe I can control it this time, or I can keep it keep it under control the way, or where I feel comfortable. But again, a lot of times these are people that are being abused. You're just trying to make that other person happy. And I truly believe that's the situation that she was in. She was just trying to keep him happy. Because then she could get, he dangled the carrot in front of her nose. Well, I'm going to do 10 albums for you. So if she kept going along with the status quo and what made him happy, she at the end is going to get what she wants, and which was a career and having 10 albums that he had promised her. So like I said, there's so many layers to this, and I hope to God that he does not get off because of messages like this that can be perceived to be like she's all for it, but they're really, to me, it's just indicating to me that she's in this trauma bond and she's just trying to keep him happy, and she can't get out of it. So she's just trying to keep it going and making him happy is what I see.
when you call it by its initials. like Trump with KFC, or Johnny Depp, or Johnny Depp with BO. I get it. Part of the allure of the music industry is you want to be a star. It's why someone moves to Miami from Kansas. It's why they built a freeway from Orange County to LA. It's why someone might run away from their small town pastor into the arms of Father Funk. And music is, to begin with, highly sexualized. Magic doesn't strike at the office. It strikes in the studio at 3 a.m. when you're high as a kite and horny as a youth minister.
And that's it can happen at the office. It doesn't always have to happen in the music studio, but at the end of the day, it doesn't matter where the fuck it happens or what's going on. If a woman says no, that's it. It ends. It's over. It's done. Stop. It's we're done. So you could be in the studio at 3 o'clock in the morning singing whatever fucking song that you want to be fucking singing. And if someone is pursuing you and you say, no, I'm not interested, that's it. Period. End of story. It's over. And anything beyond that is non-consensual and is abuse and is going against a woman's wishes. So it's irrelevant. What he's saying is completely fucking irrelevant. It doesn't matter where you are. And it does happen in the office. It has happened in the offices. So it can happen anywhere. It can happen walking down the street. And that's the world that women live in. It can happen anywhere. It's not like, well, okay, yeah, well, it's more likely to happen because it's 3 o'clock in the morning and I'm in a studio. No, to think that you're being naive. It can happen when you walk down the street. You never know when it's going to happen. And that's what part of women is being like. And raising a teenage daughter, it's like you always have to have your eyes open at all times. Just be aware. Just be aware. And what he's saying is completely asinine. Again, he's got his head completely up his fucking ass. This guy.
Everyone is sexy as shit, and you're working on a song called Slut Up My Goo Machine.
Yeah. So, this guy, yeah, he needs some, I think some different, wording on that one. I don't think those rap guys are using, that kind of wording.
Of course a freak-off breaks out. Finally. But if we're going to have an honest conversation about abuse, we also have to have an honest conversation about what people are willing to do for stardom. If you want a #1 record on the chart so bad you'll take a #1 in the face, some of that is on you.
But it's not. It's not on you. Just because you want a #1 record doesn't mean that you should be open to sexual abuse. It doesn't mean that that person being P Diddy or whoever or should have that control over you that they do whatever the fuck they want. Are you kidding me? It's just people will do anything, a lot of things to get wherever they want to go. They put the work in, the time, the energy. Sometimes you do things you don't want to do. However, if you say no, it's no. And say a woman does sleep her way to the top. Well, if it's consensual, go for it. Go have at it. But if it's not, then it's not. That's it. Period. It does happen. People use sex in certain ways, maybe to get ahead in their life. But if a woman decides it's no, it's no. That's it. And then beyond that, it is abuse.
And if you're doing it for love, well, come on. Oprah and Dr. Phil and every podcaster in the world have done 1 million shows by now about how abuse is not love and abusers don't change. If it happened once, there will be more of it. To pretend otherwise is like seeing one.
I don't think anybody's pretending it's never gonna happen again. That's not the fucking problem. People understand that it's gonna happen again. They say I was looking at some stats, they said it takes at least 6 or 7 times for, on average, for a woman who's in an abusive relationship to leave. So, yeah, like I said before, sometimes you can't leave. All this is very logical, and we can talk around circles about how what Oprah says and what Dr. Phil says and all those people that say, "Oh, you can leave and it's never gonna change, it's never gonna change." yeah, but sometimes I gotta stay in this until my kids are 18, or sometimes I gotta stay in this until I make enough money so I can get out of here. There's so many different factors, but I don't think anybody in abusive relationships thinks that, oh, it only happened once. I think what most people think is even if it's happened once, it's happened twice. If I can stay positive or I can stay with the nice message, maybe it won't happen again for a long time, or, but to think that it's never, I don't think that's the mindset people have. It's, how do I get out? My life is so entangled with this person. I can't leave. I got to figure out a way to get out, but I'm working 9 hours, whatever it is. It's just not that easy to get out. And it's not as simple as what he's saying.
Ant in the sink and thinking, oh, it's probably just the one. The singer FKA Twigs is suing Shia LaBeouf for their relentless abusive relationship. Now, I have no idea what Shia LaBeouf is like, although I've never read one single story about him or he didn't sound like a dick. But by her own account, she said, the whole time I was with him, I could have bought myself a business flight plane ticket back to my 4-story townhouse in Hackney, London. Really? Then why am I reading about this?
And that's another policy. I was thinking about all the powerful women that stayed in abusive relationships. They had the money to leave. There was other factors that were factoring in, like Madonna and Sean Penn. Why didn't she leave? I think she was so in love with him. Maybe she thought it wasn't gonna keep happening, or maybe who knows what any woman is thinking. But there's lots of powerful women that stayed in bad relationships. Mariah Carey was with Tommy Mottola, and again, she was very young when it started. Um, she got sequestered up to his big mansion up in northern New York, and so she was very isolated. There's just so many things that go. Rihanna is another one. She went after Chris Brown beat her, she went back. She went back and kept the relationship going, and I saw this interview that she had with Oprah, and she was like, she was saying, and a lot of times this can be the mindset, she was like, "I felt bad for him because I knew that abuse came from somewhere, like, there's something that's wrong with him deep down inside that made him do that. So I'm more focused on what really bad happened to him, or what really bad's going on inside of him that would make him do that, as opposed to herself." So there's all, like I said, there's so many different layers, there's so many different factors, there's so many reasons why people don't leave, and it's not has to do, sometimes it has nothing to do with money. Sometimes they have all the money, like her, she's got all the money in the world, she could have went back and all that, but sometimes you're so attached to this person. There's so many other layers. Who knows why she didn't go? But like I said, there's so many different layers, and we don't know what's going on. But to make judgments like that is just, I think, completely out of line.
Do
Completely.
that. Buy that plane ticket, even if you have to go coach. If you're literally being held captive, that's one thing. But if you're putting up with whatever for love or for your career, then you need to have a little more honesty and accountability about that. Ike Turner was a psycho, just like Diddy. But in an era where there was no movement to help her, Tina Turner somehow got away. And she did it with 36 cents in her pocket and a mobile card. All right, that's our show.
Anyway, so yeah, Tina Turner did end up leaving, but she experienced years and years and years of abuse. And she was another one that was stuck in the situation with someone who was much more powerful than her. But yeah, she eventually left, but it took years and years and years. I'm sure that there were so many different layers of why she was there and how many steps that she needed to take. Trust me, it wasn't one step. She didn't make one phone call and got the hell out of there. There was probably a lot of planning that went on. Um, but again, I'm a big proponent of, like, don't judge anybody until you've walked a fucking mile in their moccasins, and Bill Maher has not walked, like, I swear, 1 meter in their fucking moccasins, so he needs to back the fuck up. I think that what's really sad is what's going on with the whole, Justin Baldoni, Blake Lively thing, because unfortunately there are women out there that are claiming abuse, which I really don't believe happened. But a lot of the times, the women that are really truly abused are the ones that are silent. and they say like only like 20-30% of people that are abused really come out and talk about their abuse. So there's so many women that are being abused that don't talk about it at all. And it's unfortunate for the people that do lie about them in the Me Too thing, the Amber Heards, the Blake Lively's of the world, that a lot of people that are really being abused, they don't want to be second guessed. And when people lie, it just creates more questionings in people's minds. Are they telling the truth? Especially when there are no scars. There's no external scars. So, anyways, guys, let me know your thoughts. Like I said, I think he's completely full of shit. He's got his head up his fucking ass, and he just needs to stay out of that wheelhouse. So, anyways, talk to you guys soon. Bye.